Welcome back to another episode of the Meal Prep Perspective, where I share my process to make healthy, delicious meals to fuel my active lifestyle through nutrient-dense, high-protein meal prep without the constraints of food rules. I'm so happy you're here, whether you're new to my channel or you've been with me for a minute. I'm Lisa, a New Yorker who works in the health and fitness industry. I share my weekly meal prep process to empower you to build healthy habits. Here's what's on my meal prep menu this week. For breakfast, I made high-protein cheddar and cottage cheese bagels that I paired with sheet pan eggs. For lunch, I made grilled chicken salads that also had grilled asparagus, fresh cucumber and tomatoes, chickpeas, and I did a very classic balsamic vinegar, olive oil, salt and pepper dressing I added in daily. For dinner, I made chicken carnitas with black beans, onions, and jalapeno. I added a side of spiced rice and grilled peppers too. Now for the fun part, let's get into my process. I'm using my food chopper to help make dicing onions easy and breezy. I honestly don't know how I lived without this thing for so long. I'm slicing the onions into a size that will fit onto the bed of the chopper, and then I'll get to work. I really feel like that's a big tip to making meal prep a sustainable part of your life. Finding ways to make it a little bit easier and move a little bit faster, especially on the days you feel like you don't have time to meal prep. And really, that's because meal prep has to fit your lifestyle, not the other way around. Finding what works for you will be a game changer, and for me, that was buying this little food chopper so I can still buy onions at a reasonable price and I can chop them myself very quickly. Once I've got my onions all diced up, I'll preheat my Instant Pot. I'm making my carnitas in here to really give them that simmer it on the stove all day tenderness without all the time, energy, and effort that would actually take. Do you have an Instant Pot or maybe a slow cooker? My sister convinced me to trade my slow cooker for an Instant Pot a few years ago and I've never looked back. So I added in olive oil, then my onions, let them saute for a bit before I added in about a quarter of the packet of this carnitas seasoning from the brand Siete. Have you ever heard of their founding story, or do you know about the brand? It's really a lovely story about the family, and I've always cheered for them since I learned about them, so I was really excited to try this seasoning packet. So now that I'm happy with how sauteed the onions are, I added in some water, gave it a stir, and then I added in my chicken breasts. I'll be sure to submerge them in my saucy, spicy onion mixture, and then we'll get the lid on and we'll continue to cook these in the background. I'll also always remind you to rotate your pressure cooker so the steam isn't trapped under your kitchen cabinets. And we're on to the next. I'm starting my grilled chicken from my lunch salads, and I'll start by butterflying my chicken breasts. Butterflying chicken breasts isn't hard, but it can be really intimidating at first. I start with my hand very flat on the chicken and press down with moderate pressure. I just glide my knife gently along, doing my best to keep it flat too. This is definitely something you'll get the hang of once you get some practice, but don't be afraid to give it a try. I really prefer to butterfly chicken for the grill because I find it gets to the safe temp quickly and it's easier to not burn or dry them out. And it feels like it cooks more evenly this way too. I'll work through the rest of these and then I'll stack them in my container. Now that my chicken's all butterflied, shout out to my sister for bringing me this lemon olive oil back from her recent Italy trip. This olive oil has great bright flavor and is perfect for this chicken. I'll pour it over, flip, and add some more. I'll also sprinkle on some of the spice mixture my sister gave me. Thanks, sis. I'll make sure to coat in the front and back of each piece, and once I do, I'll add a splash of vinegar to tenderize these just a little bit. Since they're going out onto the grill now, I want to help them be just a little more tender before I start grilling. I'll grind some red pepper flakes, and then I'll pass them off to my husband who's on grill duty. Now that he's grilling, I'll sanitize my counter, let it sit for a minute, and then I'll wipe it down. Next, I'll get started on my bagels. I'm making high-protein cheddar and cottage cheese bagels for breakfast. This recipe still feels like it needs some tweaking. It's got really simple ingredients, but the ratios aren't perfected yet. As you can see, I'm working on it. All that's in these though are flour, baking powder, salt, and cottage cheese. I also decided to add some cheddar cheese into these this week, so you'll see that in a minute too. I really love having a high protein breakfast option that's savory. I think I realized that recently. I really don't like only having a sweet breakfast item like overnight oats, even though that is so simple and so easy on the weeks I just don't have time to do all of this effort. I guess I realized I just really prefer to have a balance of some kind of salty egg item with something sweet. You know, like a traditional American breakfast. Eggs and bacon, haha. I laugh because I think about when I travel somewhere, especially in Europe, like Italy or France, and they're kind of laughing at, Americans wanting like eggs and bacon for breakfast because, you know, I don't want to eat like prosciutto and melon for breakfast, or like a croissant just isn't going to cut it for me for breakfast for all day. Like even like a croissant and yogurt, not enough for this girly. Love them, but ultimately I know I won't be satisfied if I just have something like that for breakfast. This girl here needs protein, fat, carbs, fiber, give me all that good stuff. Anyway, once all the ingredients are in the bowl, I'll start to mix, and I almost forgot I wanted to add in my cheddar cheese. So I mixed it up a little bit until it was crumbly. Then I added in my favorite cheddar cheese. This is the unexpected cheddar from Trader Joe's, my all-time favorite. Now that I've got the cheddar in there, I'm going to get back to mixing. This is probably where it kind of goes off the rails a little bit for me. I feel like I need a better technique or method to mix them together, but I did my best. And let me know if you have a better method or way for me to do this, but I definitely realized it was way too sticky. The dough was way too sticky, so I had my husband give me a little cup of flour and add that in, and it definitely made a difference. Once I got that flour worked in, I separated the dough and then I'll let it rest for a little bit. Hands are washed, got all that excess dough off my hands, and now I'm going to add in some of the carnitas seasoning I used in the chicken. I'm going to add in just a little bit to my rice that's already rinsed, and I'll start it in the rice cooker. Next, my husband brought in the chicken from the grill. Yay! I'll let the chicken rest and cool off for a moment, and I've got 3 sheet pans with parchment paper ready to go. I'll get started on forming my protein bagels now. I feel like this time I did a better job of cutting them up and forming them into bagels. I tried to make some of them a little bit smaller for me and a little bit larger for my husband. But I realized really the best way to form these into bagels isn't to do like form them into like a log and kind of like make them into like a circle. Instead, it's to just kind of pull apart the middle. That seemed to work really well for this recipe for me. Definitely lots of flour on my hands, and I tried to not get a ton of flour on the bagels, but a little bit's okay. So I'll keep going with these and get them all formed onto my sheet pan. Once they're all shaped, I'll grab my eggs out of the fridge because I'm making sheet pan eggs, which are the perfect combination with these bagels. I've got protein and fats in my eggs, so pairing them with high protein, complex carbohydrates to the bagels, they really make the perfect combination. Once I get my eggs scrambled, I'll use them just as they are to brush on the tops of my bagels, and I'll also add a sprinkle of the unexpected cheddar on the very top of the bagel for a little fun. I'll get the bagels into the oven, and then I'll use my last sheet pan and pour my scrambled egg mix onto the pan. I'm keeping them really simple this week and adding salt and fresh ground black pepper, and with that they'll go into the oven and bake with the bagels. I'll link the sheet pan eggs recipe too because it's a need to have. Next, my Instant Pot chicken carnitas are done, and yes, my kitchen smells incredible. So I'll let this steam out, and once it's released, I'll open and check out just how tender these turned out. These are so tender that I can just use my large spoon to press the chicken against the pan and it will shred itself. This happens really fast, and I'll add in the remaining seasoning packet and give it a stir. Next, I'll add 2 cans of rinsed black beans, and at this point I gave this a taste and realized it definitely needed some more spice, so I used another carnitas packet here, about half the packet, and that was definitely the move. And if you're someone who likes to follow an exact recipe, well, one, you're probably frustrated that I don't share recipes, but that's because I love to encourage everyone to learn to cook how they like to eat. I can tell you how I like to make something, but what's more important to me is that you like what you make and you are learning how to make what you like. So learning what you like and how to create those meals is really where the magic happens. Now the timer for my sheet pan eggs is going off, so I'll pull those out of the oven, let them cool off, and I'm on to the next task. Next, I'm cutting up some red peppers, and the large pieces I'll pass off to my husband to grill these, and the tops I'll use them, I'll cut them up so they'll fit inside my food chopper, and then I'll get chopping. I learned a valuable lesson this time when I was using the chopper. I realized I need to put the peppers skin side up, so that way when they go through the chopper, they go through all the way and they don't get stuck in the blades. So they did okay on the first round of them, but after I stacked them up again, I realized, some of them are stuck in there, so I very cautiously pulled them out, but these blades are so sharp, so definitely use the little tool that comes with it if you make the same mistake as I did, or learn from me and don't make that mistake. I also diced up a jalapeno in the food chopper here, and don't worry, learn my lesson. I put them skid side up and they went right through the chopper super easily. Yes, I love to leave the seeds of my jalapenos in, especially when I only have one jalapeno for a meal prep. So for 10 meals for 2 adults, like 1 jalapeno is really not that much, but I like spicy. Y'all probably know that by now. I'll set this little mix to the side, and then I'll grab the cilantro I have. I'm going to chop the cilantro, removing the stems and setting them aside for a future chimichurri. Once my cilantro is chopped, I'll set it aside, and then I'll grab my chicken carnitas with beans, and I'm going to add in those diced peppers and jalapenos here. I'll also show you how I serve these. I loved these cute little street taco tortillas, and they made the perfect tacos with some cilantro on top. These were so delicious. They made me so happy every single day. I'll portion them into my containers, and then each day I added the tortilla fresh, since they really won't keep well in the same container as the chicken carnitas. Thinking about things like this is important for meal prep, so when I have flexibility, like right now, I like to add things in as I go, like just adding these little tortillas every day. I found in the times that I'm much busier, I need meals that I don't have to think about, I don't have to remember to add something, so this is a good fit for me right now. I'll sprinkle some cilantro on the tops of these, get them out into the containers, and then we'll be on to the next task. And the next task is rice. It's done, and I actually want to mix in some things here, so I'll make use of my Instant Pot pan since it's bigger and I already have it here with me. I'm adding in some fire roasted green chilies into my rice for a little more flavor, and then I'll also add the remaining cilantro and then the rest of that carnitas spice packet. I'll mix this up really well, and then I'll get these portioned into my containers. Now my bagels are done and out of the oven, and they look absolutely perfect. Like, really, who's gonna say these can't compete with your, best NYC bagels? Well, okay, fine. They're good. I'm working on getting them to great. They will be great. It's in the works. But technically, these are New York bagels. They're made in New York. They're made with New York water, kind of. I definitely made the mistake of not letting these cool enough before I sliced into them. So I did slice this first one open, and you can probably see the steam. You can absolutely see my reaction, which is, hot. Look at the inside of that. Like, does that not look like a bagel? Again, we're getting closer. We're gonna get there with the recipe, but I'm gonna let those cool off, and then I'll slice my sheet pan eggs. And once the sheet pan eggs are sliced, I'll get them portioned out, and literally look at this perfect little breakfast sandwich. I mean, how perfect is this? Oh, so good. I'll get the rest of these assembled and put them into my meal prep containers, and then I'll be on to the next task. I've got them all portioned in my containers, and I made a few extras because I wanted some friends to try so I could get feedback on making this recipe better and better. My grilled chicken is cooled off, and we'll slice it up and portion it out into the meal prep containers. My husband forgot to take a video of him grilling the asparagus, but he passed it off to me, and I sliced it up and added it into my lunch meal. Next, I'll add a can of rinsed chickpeas and add those into the lunch containers too. And now I'll dice cucumber and tomato, and I'm only going to add that into the first 3 days of the containers because it won't last the whole week once it's sliced. So on days 4 and 5, I'll add it fresh daily. I'll stir it up and portion it into the first 3 days, and we are in great shape now. And voila, that's it. Another incredible meal prep, and my process is complete. There's really no feeling like the apron coming off and knowing that we're all set for a week of healthy, nutrient-dense meals. Truly nothing compares to that. And here I am. I almost forgot to add in the grilled red peppers. Whoops. So I'm adding them in now. Yay, yay, yay. And now we're actually done. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave me a comment with your meal prep questions. I always reply. See you next week. Bye.